Welcome to Stuck in My Mind podcast, the show where we dive into the mind of a regular guy on his road to self-discovery. You'll hear everyday people just like you share the latest topics, personal stories, and things they've learned along the way. And now, please welcome your host, Wise.
And welcome to another episode. I am your host, W-I-Z-E, and I have a very special guest. She's a coach, entrepreneur, author. Welcome to the show, Andrena Sawyer.
Thank you so much, Wise. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm excited to have you. I always love having people on to talk.
It's good. It's good to be, welcomed.
All right, so you're a consultant, you're an entrepreneur, you're an author. You're someone who's your faith is your strength as well, and I'm glad to have you on. So tell us a little something about yourself.
Yeah. As you mentioned, I am all those things professionally. I'm a consultant, an entrepreneur, full time. Personally, yes, my faith is important to me, but I have a background that's rooted in faith, even outside of like religion. I was born in Sierra Leone, West Africa. My family moved here to the United States when I was 9 years old. So a lot of my life has been like just believing in something bigger, believing in purpose, believing that my life means something. And that's why I was able to escape a civil war and come here. So, now my life looks a little bit like merging that personal belief and those convictions that I have into the professional work that I do.
All right, so you're also an author. I see you have quite a few books. How many books have you written?
I've written 4 solo books, but I've also been a contributor to two other books, 2 anthologies.
Okay, tell us a little something about your books.
Yeah, so my books are started out as a creative outlet, so there is no uniform theme. So if someone is looking to just get a bunch of books on entrepreneurship from me, you won't get that. I have 2 out of my 4 books are fiction. They're kind of a coming of age story of a young woman finding herself personally, professionally, spiritually. And one of them, The Long Way Home, is my absolute favorite book that I've ever written. It just felt very authentic and true to where I was at the time. Then I have another book called The Misadventures of a New Entrepreneur, also close to my heart, because that one is nonfiction and it's all about my entrepreneurship journey. And what it was, I'm celebrating 11 years this year. And when I was writing the book, I was so frustrated with the process and the fact that I felt like people were not honest about what it took to be independent in the workforce. So The Misadventures of a New Entrepreneur is about all the things I did not do right, all the things that didn't go well, and how someone else who's reading it can overcome and avoid some of those challenges. And then the last book, The Other Side of Assertiveness, it's all about communication. So assertive communication for women, especially women of color.
Yeah, being an entrepreneur is not easy. They make it seem easy. A lot of these gurus and coaches, they make it seem easy by telling you that things you want to hear. But no, it is not easy. It's hard work. It's not. Yes, you make a lot of mistakes. That's one thing for sure. As an entrepreneur, you make a lot of mistakes, but those are things that helps you develop as an entrepreneur and shows you if it's really for you or not. Like everybody's not built to be an entrepreneur.
So true. I say that all the time. People don't agree.
Yeah, some people are meant to be worker bees. That you can't deny it.
Yeah.
But everybody thinks that being an entrepreneur or you're your own boss, you end up working much more harder as an entrepreneur than you do as an employee.
Facts.
Because as an employee, you set your 40 hours, you go to work, get a paycheck. Yes. You're putting in way more hours being an entrepreneur and seeing way less money at the beginning. And we're a society right now where we want instant gratification. So that's why people stay stuck at jobs and don't go the entrepreneur route
Mm-hmm.
because they don't want to go through that struggle. They want that that check that's there every week.
Yeah,
Whereas an entrepreneur, you don't know if you're gonna make that money this week because you don't know what client you have. You don't know if a client's gonna whatever. It is not easy.
absolutely not. And that's the thing. That's why I wrote that book because so backstory, right? So one day I was doing a bunch of things locally at the time, and a young lady I was connected to on Facebook sent me a message, and she basically went in on me and was like, "You just think you're so great because you're an entrepreneur, and you just always bragging about all the stuff that you're doing." She called it bragging. To me, it was my understanding of branding, which is to highlight all the things you're good at. But her note, in short, really hurt my feelings because she thought that I was like highlighting all these good things because everything was perfect for me in my entrepreneurship journey. But what she didn't know was that I was so broke that I didn't even have like $10 for gas to put in my car. Like I was struggling in silence. And when I went into entrepreneurship 11 years ago, I believed the Instagram like hype. I believed the social media hype. I thought that I would get in these rooms and I would woo them with how good I was at whatever, and the money would roll in the 6 figures, 7 figures. I would take vacations when I wanted, and I realized I was wrong. Financially, it's a lot of sacrifice. Socially, it's a lot of sacrifice. It weighs on your mental health. There's just so many things that we don't talk about. And so her note inspired me to write this book to just be honest and say, look, you see some things and it looks like a highlight reel, but you don't know what people are going through on the back end as they're building.
It's I always talk about this one meme where they show an iceberg and they just show the tip of the iceberg and they don't show everything else you went through. And so for me, it's like, yeah, listen. I'm gonna be brag about what I do, especially if I'm proud of my accomplishments.
Yeah.
It's not like that. I should be ashamed of me working hard and being ashamed of the success I had because you're not seeing the struggle. Like nobody saw the struggle you went through. Nobody knows what you went through to build what you have, but they're envious of you showing the success of your from the fruits of your labor that they don't realize like listen, I didn't get here overnight. This isn't instant success. This is me working hard and building something out of nothing.
Yeah.
And people are quickly to like once you start showing your success, they're quickly to really like look down upon you or make try to make you feel bad because they want you to feel what they're feeling.
Yeah.
And then that's just not right. That's a problem that we have, that people become envious of us because they see the success, but they don't know the work that we've put into building the success.
Yeah. Like that sacrifice thing, nobody tells you about it. You mentioned something earlier that was so good, which is like you end up, first of all, you end up not making a lot of money when you're starting, but you end up working more too than you would if you were working a traditional 9 to 5 job.
Yes.
And people don't tell you that. And another thing that people don't tell you is they glamorize this whole freedom, right? I'm an entrepreneur, I have all my freedom. I don't have to report to anybody. Go ahead and get your first bad review. Then you'll see that you actually do have bosses. Your customers become your bosses.
Yeah.
And so all these things that we glamorize, yes, they're true, right? Like entrepreneurship is the gateway to economic mobility, especially in this part of the world, right? Like it's the quickest way to get rich, like real estate, entrepreneurship. Freedom, yes, it becomes yours if you build good enough systems and structures. You do get to a point where you can create your own schedule and live as comfortably as you will. But there's a ladder, there's like a rites of passage. Like unless you're born into like a millionaire billionaire family, most of us have to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps to get to a place of comfort. And those years, they're hard.
Oh,
They're
listen,
really hard.
I know because I'm going through that right now with building my company. but that's a risk. The thing is, I haven't left my 9 to 5. I still do my 9 to 5, and I do my company after work, but I still work all those hours after I'm at work. Like,
Yeah.
I come home and I come to do more work, but
Yep.
that's my choice. That's me wanting to build something and not sacrifice the income. So
Yeah.
yes, I keep my job and I do what I have to do, knowing that I'm not going to make much money in my business at the moment, but
Yeah.
that's fine. It's me wanting to grow and build my brand, and
Exactly.
me growing as an entrepreneur and learning that, hey, these are the things that's going to take for me to become successful and do the things that I want. And things are happening, things are falling into place. I'm networking with some great people. But it takes time. It takes time. It's not going to happen instantly.
Yeah. I always say entrepreneurship is a long game, and people who are not positioned to play a long game, they don't last very long because those years are grueling. I so there was an interim time of 9 months from the time I quit my job to the time I became full time. Like, I wrote my resignation letter and I just worked part time on this thing. And in those 9 months, I learned a lot, but my daily schedule looked like getting up at, like, let's say 6, clocking into work at 8:30 ish, getting out of work, getting home by 6:30, taking maybe a 2 hour break. And then from like 8:30 to 2 in the morning, I'm working on my business. And that's my schedule every day for 9 months.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like
Oh
6:30
no,
to
listen,
2 a.m.
listen. I get up at 2 in the morning to be at work at 4. I work
Mhm.
4 to 12. I come home, I take a little break, whatever, nap, whatever, just a little break, and then
Yeah.
I'm working from 2 to 8 p.m. working on my business, working on my craft, which is trying to build my production company,
Yep.
trying to build my internet radio station. It's me putting in the work. And okay, yeah, I sacrifice not going out to certain places or not hanging out, but I'm told for that right now. I'm more focused on
Yep.
building something where I'm able to retire way before 67. That's the ultimate goal. I want to be able to enjoy those years, not work till I'm 67 just to only enjoy whatever years happen. No, I want to enjoy life now,
Yes.
and enjoy my time now and be blessed to enjoy the things that I have now while I'm capable.
Absolutely. And that's my goal too. My For me, I know some entrepreneurs are driven by early retirement. For me, it's like this idea of legacy. Like, I come from a poor country. Obviously, in those types of contexts, you don't have a lot to pass on to, like, the next generation. And so every entrepreneur, I think, has that why, which is why we play that long game. Like, you're getting 4 hours of sleep. There was a time where I was getting 4 hours of sleep. In fact, wise, like, it was so bad that to this day, 11 years in, I still struggle with sleep. Not necessarily because I'm up still, like, working doing the same thing. I'm still working, but because my body just got so accustomed, because for years that's what I did.
Yeah.
So when people are talking about what you're talking about, I'm like, if you're an aspiring entrepreneur, really listen, because this is like reality.
Yeah.
It's really reality for a lot of
It's
us.
not
Where,
easy work, right?
yeah,
It's crazy because they seem to promote like, oh yeah, I can make you a millionaire in no time, and then if sometimes you don't follow the steps correctly or whatever. To me, it's if you're gonna make money that quickly, there's something to me not right about it. It to me, if you put in the sacrifice and you put in the work and you put in this blood, sweat, and tears,
yeah,
it's gonna come.
yeah,
Eventually it's gonna come. Like again, like I said, it's this. We're in a society now where it's instant gratification. They want it now.
hmm,
People like me and you, we don't want, like, yeah, we would appreciate it now,
yeah,
but we'll take it when it comes. We're when it's ready to come, and it will come.
yeah, yeah, and
It's,
it
it's
will.
yeah,
I think it's a spiritual principle. It's also a natural spirit principle in nature. Like you sow. If you're sowing on good ground, you have to reap.
Yeah, it's gonna have to repeat exactly.
You're
Yeah.
gonna have to, like for some of us it takes longer, others it takes a little bit shorter. But I don't trust anything that's overnight success. When I was writing the book, I was doing research and I came across this stat that said on average it takes about 15 years for the overnight success to become the overnight success. So when people see, or hear about like the Steve Jobs and stuff, they forget how he was fired, how he spent years like trying to get back into his company, like how he spent years doing these prototypes of these models of these products that now we're buying for $2,000. But it took years in the making. And so if you don't have deep roots, I don't trust it. I need, I need to see some deep roots.
No, but it's crazy because for me, podcasting has opened so many avenues for me. I've started a production company. I've launched my internet radio station. I've even started taking coaching classes to help me, just because what I'm talk about on my podcast and all that, and just for me, just for help me develop as a person and grow. Because by taking these courses, these are things that I'm applying to myself and learning and developing myself. But it's also helping me. This year, I got my first speaking engagement, and it's little things like that are opening up for me. I got my first voiceover job. It's those little things that are happening that is showing me that, hey, I don't just have to focus on one thing. There's so many different avenues for me to open, and so for me to generate income or generate something. I'm just blessed. I'm like, wow, like just by me starting the podcast and getting and pressing record and getting it done has opened up so many doors that might have not opened up had I not taken that leap. Had I just continued to be afraid to press record and get my podcast started, I would have just been stuck in my mind. That's why I named it this way. It's because I was stuck in my head making up excuses to why I shouldn't start my podcast. I would sound hard. I sound horrible. Who would want to listen to me? What am I going to talk about? What am I? And then it just took me to press record and start it. And now I've released 146 episodes audio. I went to video this past September, just went over 3,000 subscribers in March on YouTube, and probably released 50 episodes as far as video goes.
Nice.
And it's me, like last year, I went crazy. I was probably recording 3-4 episodes Monday through Friday.
Wow.
So I have so much content as far as audio. This is prior to me going to video. I have so much audio content that it's crazy that I'm still uploading episodes that I recorded last July.
Wow. Wow.
Like if I was to just take a break as far as recording, not video wise, because I'm still the video wise content is still fresh and upcoming. But as far as my audio podcast, I don't have to record probably for the next year and a half, 2 years.
Wow. That's incredible. It's just so funny. Well, first of all, congratulations on those numbers, because I know that is not easy. Like
It's
that's
one thing is it's being consistent. Like people think that they're gonna come and drop an episode and they're gonna get 10,000 downloads. Nah, you have to build up your audience.
yeah.
Yeah, people have to realize that. Okay, are you gonna be consistent? Are you gonna be someone that? Are you gonna have something out every week? Are you gonna have something that I can consume? And for the most part, I've been consistent. I've taken little breaks here and there, but that's just for me to refresh and make sure I don't get burnt out.
Yeah. And I'm learning. I'm not in this space obviously, but one thing I recently learned is just like attention deficit in social media with content creators.
10 to
So
15
it's like
seconds. Yeah, you got 10 to 15 seconds to grab their attention.
yeah, and when you're not consistent, it gets easier to lose their attention. So for you to even just do that is just congratulations. That's incredible.
Thank you.
And I agree with you. I agree. I just that long game like that we have to play as entrepreneurs is so important. Like I used to think if you build it, they will come. right? So if my podcast, if my book or whatever is really good, then the readers will just come. And 9 times out of 10, those people only come as a result of your consistency or as a result of them like hearing about you. Like your reach has become so good.
Yeah.
And the reach only comes if the quality of what you're doing is really good.
Yeah.
Like if you could be the greatest social media marketer, but if when people come, they don't like the quality of what you're offering, they're leaving.
Yeah.
And it takes work. It just takes time. It takes effort. It takes consistency to build in that way. And even though it's harder at the end, I always hear, and I believe it to be true, that people who do the work at the front end of it, they enjoy their success much more at the latter end. The people who are looking for like get rich quick, like overnight success type of strategies, like stuff ends up falling out from beneath them because it didn't have the good foundation. So when you're talking about like coaching and even doing speaking in front of people, the only way people ask you to speak to them, like to their audience, is if they know that what you're going to do is going to be quality.
So the
It's a
person who
science.
asked me to speak was actually a guest on my podcast,
Nice.
and she was like, "I would love for you to speak at my women's event," and
Oh,
that was
wow.
my first speaking engagement ever. And of course, I I wasn't great, but I was just me. I just told my story, and with time, of course, with more speaking engagements, I will improve. But for my first time, I think I did pretty well.
That's awesome.
And so, working behind the mic has actually helped with my confidence and helped me with doing. Like I said, I've done so many first things this past year.
Yeah.
It's just been like, had you asked me this 4 or 5 years ago, would I be doing what I'm doing right now? I would be like, no.
That's so awesome. Even just thinking about the name of your podcast, like stuck in on your platform, stuck in my mind. Like everybody has a starting place. You know, like when you're doing your 100th speaking engagement, like your first engagement is going to be a good story to tell to that audience about, whatever you do.
Like my first episode is hilarious because it was just 5 minutes long,
Hmm.
and I had it was a Behringer studio that I bought on Amazon for $160, which came with a little mixer, a mic, headphones, and an adapter to plug it into my laptop. And I didn't even have the proper hookup for my phone to the mixer. So I'm holding the phone, talking to my nephew, holding the phone to the mic, and me speaking into the mic as well, and him speaking into the mic through the phone. But that was just our first experience. I was like, listen, and he was like, no, we can't release that. I'm like, oh no, we're gonna release it. We're
Yeah.
gonna release it because I want people to see where we started at. This is where they started. Look where he's at now. And for me, once I figured out this is what I wanted to do,
Yep.
that podcasting was something I was passionate about, that I love doing, I started investing in myself. I invested in some quality mics. I invested in some quality cameras. I got me the holy grail of, well, it's no longer the holy grail because the Rodecaster 2 just came out, and that's my next goal. But I invested in myself because I felt that, hey, people are giving me something that's very precious,
Yep.
which is their time.
Yep.
By listening to me, you're giving me your time and something that you'll never be able to give back. So to
Yep.
me, I feel like you're giving me something of value. I need to give you something of value. So I need to improve on my
Yeah.
sound. I need to
Yeah.
improve on my video. I need to
Yeah.
improve on my content and my guests.
That's
And
so
I've
good.
been blessed. I've had amazing guests on that have provided information to help people along the way.
That's so good. That's so good. And I think that's the value of getting out of your head. Cause it's like there's value in learning on the job, right? But then there's also the fact that you're motivating people who are watching you. Like somebody is gonna be like, oh man, I remember his first episode. And now look at him kind of thing, you know? I went through a similar thing like imposter syndrome when I was writing my first books. Actually, even when I was starting a business, because I didn't go to school for business. In fact, like my dad had businesses when I was growing up, but one business was like so bad that it like cost us everything. Like my family lost everything. But he's always been an entrepreneur. So for the longest time, when I thought about starting a business, I was like, I'm never going to do it. One, I'm not qualified. Two, like, who's going to listen to this young Black girl in this space that's dominated by like mostly like middle-aged white men, right? And then I thought about my family's history with business ownership and our track record. And I was like, there are all these strikes against me in my mind. But then when you actually get into it and you put your money where your mouth is, you do a little bit and it encourages you. So you stand up a little bit straighter. And the further you go, the more you're like, well, if people are invested, then I need to straighten up to honor their investment. You know, like if they're trusting me out of all the people out there, then I need to make sure that I'm honoring that. And so it's like step by step, step by step. And before you know it, you're a couple years in. And at that point, you're like, oh man, I'm too far in now to just quit. And so that becomes motivation. Or let me speak for myself. That became my motivation. It's like you just keep going, just bite by bite. How do you eat an elephant? You know, that's the riddle, one bite at a time. And I'm like, when you get out of your mind, you know, you could eat elephants. You just do it a little bit at a time.
Oh no, it is. It's again, it's being consistent. Is buying into like if you really want to start a business, you need to have realize that's going to be 3 to 5 years so you really even see anything before you see any gratification, anything that's going to make you feel good. Like, oh man, all this time has been well spent.
Yep.
And so if you can't dedicate that amount of time, then you can't dedicate yourself to a business because
Mm-mm.
again, it's it happens. Yes, people come out the gate, and yes, they come out and they're successful. It happens,
Yeah.
but it's not like it's something that happens all the time.
Yeah.
These are things that are anomalies. These are things that you just happen to have a product that needed to fill a void,
Yep.
and it just takes off.
Yep.
But then again, like you said, there's these people that you see the success now, but they've been at this probably like 10, 15 years.
Yep.
And now the fruits of their labor is paying off. But
Yeah.
we just see them now. We see their success now. So we're like, oh man, I can't believe they just came out of nowhere. No,
Yeah.
they've been always been here.
Yeah.
You just didn't see the struggles.
Yeah. So I'll tell you a funny story. I'm in the Facebook group of like women entrepreneurs, women of
Yes.
color. And we were having a marketing thread where we were like, oh, drop the social media platform that you need help with so that people can start following you. And this one lady, she wrote in her comments, I've been in business 30 years and I don't even use social media. And then everybody was like, what? 30 years? How do you do it? And she basically said what you just said. She was like, in 30 years, I've learned it's not like your work will speak for itself. So she's at a place now in her business where she's so good that every client that engages with her ends up telling 2, 3 more people.
And that's where it's how it really starts. It's
Yep.
word of mouth.
But
Yes.
you think about that though, right? Like 30 years, that's a long time. And so for someone who's just starting and they're like, man, I gotta get on Instagram, I gotta do all this stuff. Yes, it's true. But what's really important is to just be consistent.
Yeah, no, it is. It is.
You know?
And listen, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, these are just tools to help you. These aren't the answer to it all. These are tools that you can use to help speed up the process. But these are not things that are really you got to know how to work them. Like these are things again people expect to go viral instantly.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
it's being consistent, it's being work. Like me, I just started working on my TikTok and I've built it up slowly but surely. And just like my YouTube, I built and my audience on my audio podcast is building up slowly.
Yeah.
But it's me. You can see the difference. You can see the growth. You can see like, okay, think this is where
Yeah.
people are like when I first started, man, it was difficult. People didn't even want to be on my show.
Hmm.
But that's because people again, it was what some of the first questions was, how many people are listening to you? How many downloads do you have? I'm like, yo, I just started. I'm fresh, new, and of course, whatever. And people I got ghosted. People didn't show up. And then eventually the no's turned into yes. People started showing up, and to the point where people started shooting me messages like, "Hey, I just checked out your podcast. I think I'd be a great fit. Let's do something." And it's happened. It's like when you get those messages, it's like, okay, I'm doing something right.
Yeah.
If someone is reaching out to me to be on my podcast, like I have a guest coming up in a couple of weeks that I'm so excited about because it's a defining moment for me because he's in one of the a movie that I really watched, The Secret,
Hmm.
and to have him on my show to be and reach out to me. It's not like I reached out to him. Sometimes you got to reach out to me. It's for his representative to come and reach out to me like, hey, we think he'll be a great fit for your show. And when I saw who it was, I was like, wow, this is exciting. This is
Yeah.
really exciting to have this opportunity. And I've had some celebrities on. I've had some people with some name recognition. But to me, this is especially learning the things that I learned and being into self development and being into and self help and wanting to have this person that I know is a well known name is like, all right, this is going, this is working. Things are falling into place. Doors are opening, opportunities are opening.
Yeah.
Who knows where this can take me to? And I'm excited. Like I'm so excited to be able to speak to everybody I speak to. Just
Yeah.
everyone that I've had on my show, I've learned something, or just being able to have great conversations that maybe someone else can has to like. Who knows? Maybe there's someone out there like from Sierra Leone, like you, and they're like, oh man, they're from my country, or they've experienced something similar coming from a country that's at war, or
Mm.
and that struggles, and to see that you've come all this way to being a successful black woman doing some things out here and that's what I want is for people to see that is that people there's regular people out there. There's people out there just working hard to build themselves up.
Yeah.
And they've gone through struggles, they've gone through wars, they've gone through personal issues, personal battles, personal griefs, and have been able to turn their life around
Yeah.
and like you said, legacy. That's something big. For me, being able to do my podcast, I'm leaving something for my grandkids to be like, hey, my grandpa was had a good show. He had a cool show. He had people on to share messages and help people along.
Mm.
And to be able to do that, people want to rate success as monetary.
Mm.
To me, it's more spiritual and being able to do what I love to do
Yeah.
and share some knowledge and share some nuggets for people out there to listen to. That to me is success. If one person listens to an episode and is like, I needed to hear that and goes and
Yeah.
change their life around.
Yeah. That's so good. You said so many good things. Um, I was talking about, the misadventures, all the things that didn't go right. Well, when you tell people all the things that didn't go right, their natural question is, well, why do you keep doing it? And everything you just said is my response because of the fulfillment that I get from this. Right? Like, no, we have a saying, right, in West Africa, no condition is permanent. Like, every country has their variation of that. It's like the struggles are temporary, but on the other side of the struggle is this like fulfillment of like, oh my gosh, I went to sleep knowing I poured everything that was in me into this vision that I have. Then there's the fulfillment of like actually doing something that your loved ones are proud of. Like you succeeded. You said that you were going to do a thing and you actually followed through. And in this culture, that's a big deal, to actually do what you say that you're going to do. When you were talking about how, some people said no, and then later on, some people said yes. For me, my first moment like that came when a client who had previously passed on me came back to me and said, look, I heard about some things that you were doing. I'd like to work with you. And it was like full circle because when I approached them, They didn't want to work with me. They didn't know anything, you know? And then for them to come back on their own and say, you know, are you still taking clients, was kind of like I'm doing something right, you know? Or when you get that first review and it's not a review you asked for, it's just a review that they felt compelled to write because their experience was so good. It was like, okay, I know that I've been busting my behind, but for other people to notice it now, like it does something in that journey. So, you know, after I said, oh, these challenges, I had A, B, C, D, E, and people would ask, why do you keep going? Because the fulfillment, I can't explain it to you. Like you have to experience it
Oh
yourself.
no, I know. I understand what you're saying. I
Yeah.
understand. I definitely understand what you're saying because it's for me. It's like being able to, yeah, going through the struggles or whatever it is of at first like getting like no downloads or probably getting one download a month, two downloads a month, to where now it's like okay, I'm. It's like I said, like people would respond to my email or my messages like, no, like why would I want to be on your show? And for me, like, and you know, in your own head, you're like, oh man, I suck. I sound horrible. And then when you start speaking to people and they get to know you and you do the show, they're like, yo, we're like, you have that radio voice. You have that
Yeah.
voice for this. What are you talking about? You sound horrible.
Yeah.
Or people go like, yo, you're easy to talk to. I enjoy coming on your show because we can just have a conversation. Yes, they're my guests are here to promote themselves and talk about, but also to be themselves. Like people are drawn to authenticity and to allow my guests the opportunity to just be themselves and not just come on and just promote, to be able to see that, for people to come and see like, hey, they're regular people that are here, that yes, they're some more successful than others, but that's just going to show you that they're regular people.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so so good. And it's these types of platforms are so so important because a lot of times when people are thinking of starting a business or they're starting, they won't be honest. You know, and there's this culture, I don't know if you experience it in your industry, but in mine, there's this culture of always having to be on. So like you fake it till you make it kind of posture. So you're never like people are never really honest and authentic about the things. And it's harmful. Like it's harmful for you because when you need help, you feel like you can't ask because you got to keep going and putting on. And then it's harmful for the people who are watching you, especially those who are aspiring to be entrepreneurs, because they don't get an honest explanation of what to expect.
Yeah,
So when you have platforms like this that allow you to just be authentic, to like not feel the need to be like to put on or to be pretentious, I think is so helpful for the culture. Like it's helpful for like the generations behind us. It's helpful just for our community to just be to say it's possible for you to succeed, whatever that looks like. For some people, success is only monetarily. For some people, it's the freedom. For other people, it's legacy building. Whatever your definition of success is, it's possible. But I do want you to know to prepare in these ways. And I just think those conversations are necessary.
it is. It definitely is. And when I first started, I started. It was me talking about work and
Mhm.
everything that was going on, the George Floyd incident and
Mhm.
politics. And I wasn't enjoying myself. And so when I switched it over more to a conversation piece about more focusing on growth and self development and positive aspects of life and not worry about all the negative stuff that's dividing us, that's when I really truly fell in love with what I was doing. Because
Mhm.
now I'm putting out content to combat all this negative stuff.
Mhm.
I'm putting out content out there to help people grow and develop. Or I've done episodes on toxic relationships and
Mhm.
why do people stay in these relationships. Like to me, it was just I didn't understand why women would stay in abusive relationships and not seek the help. But then I've had friends who broke it down for me why they stood in such relationships, because they didn't have the proper self esteem. They didn't think highly of themselves,
Mhm.
and so me, I wanted to to change that. Like I wanted to make a difference on as showing people, especially people of color, that it's not it's not you shouldn't be embarrassed because you're seeking help.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be worried about that or what they're gonna think of you because you went and sought the help that you needed.
Yeah.
And it's pride. It's the pride in us not wanting people to feel like, oh, look at him,
Yeah.
he needs help again. Or no, it's listen, we are so hard on ourselves,
Hmm.
and to just not seek help, it's really. And now, but now with the way things are, mental health is really big. People are really
Yeah.
focusing on their mental. But again,
Yeah.
coming from where we come from, it's not something that it wasn't big on. We would make fun of people, or people would be like embarrassed that they went to sought help somewhere. Or
Yeah.
it's okay, it's all right. Listen, everybody has their time, that moment where they break down,
Yeah.
and to be able to seek that help, it's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. It doesn't make you less of a person.
Yeah. That's so good. My mantra is truth saves lives. Because I just remember like being in a space in entrepreneurship where I felt like stuck between a rock and a hard place, meaning I could not tell other people because I was fearful of how they would judge me, right? But I didn't have the resources to get the help for myself. I literally was just stuck. And then I remember a season where I started noticing there was like an increase in headlines of business owners who were committing suicide. And the conversation for the culture was, if you have everything, why would you still kill yourself? And I was just like, it's not so black and white. Like a lot of things that people go through, they will never tell you.
Yeah, you don't know what they. Yeah, you don't know
And
what they're going through.
they're not in a safe space. And so when I was thinking about just the pressures of entrepreneurship, like between the cash flow issues, right? Then you got management. Like if you have employees, you are not only responsible for yourself, you're not responsible for them. Then you have the demands, then you have the loneliness of it all. It's a very isolating process. So it's like when people are trivial about mental health, not even just in entrepreneurship, I just am like, I wish that we would wake up, because a lot of times we have these conversations, but it's too late for that person
Yeah,
because they've already made the most harmful decisions that they could have made for themselves. And then when people start talking about, well, why did they do that? And then they're like, oh, because they were in arrears with their taxes for the last 5 years. And we look at that in comparison to their life and we're like, oh man, their life was not worth it. Yes, it was a lot of money, but there's always a way of escape. There's always a way out. And
yeah,
so, like being honest, whether we want to talk about that or not, it plays a role in other people's mental health, even if they don't say it.
yeah.
The best thing you can do for somebody around you is to give them permission to be honest about what they're going through. You say, like, I believe personally that we literally save lives when we have conversations like this, because we just don't know, who's listening or who's in the room that is
Who
going
needs
through
this? Yeah,
something. Yeah. And it's like, we trivialize it a lot because our culture is about, like, I want to be the best. I always have to look prim and proper and perfect and refined all the time. But the honest truth is, if
gotta
you
show
want
the
to,
you gotta show
yeah,
the messy side sometimes. Sometimes you gotta show
it's
the messy side.
necessary. It's
It's
necessary.
sometimes people need to see that. They
It's
see that
necessary.
aspect of you. Like, listen, I have my moments. I have my moments where I'm vulnerable.
Yeah.
I'm not feeling as confident as I would previous days. Everyone has that moment where
Yeah.
you're down on yourself.
Yeah.
It's how you bounce up. It's how you get back up, and again, if you need help, go seek that help. If you need
Yeah.
someone to talk to, it's fine. Go get that. Go speak to someone. It's the point is to get it off your chest, and get it off your shoulders and be able to express, to be honest, like you said, to be honest, to be yourself and just get out of your own head.
Yeah. It's important. And it's freeing for you too. Well, for me too, it's freeing to like just be myself. And knowing I give other people permission to be themselves when I'm myself. It's a win-win.
Yeah. And that's why I love doing my show, is because I get to be me. I get to have fun, and the person you're speaking to is the person it's me. I'm not trying to be something I'm not. I just try to be me. I'm someone who likes to talk to people. I feel sometimes I have something that someone might need to hear, or it's just the thing. People are like, oh, what are you, a professional? No, I'm like, listen, no. You know what made me a expert? Life. Like the things that I can speak on the things that I've gone through in my life, and that's the expert. That's what I'm expert. I'm an expert on my life, not on anyone else's life. My life. Yeah. And if my stories can help anyone, or whatever I've gone through can help anyone, then I'm doing what I'm supposed to do.
Facts. I agree.
But it's been great talking to you. Now is time where you get to plug away, let everybody know where they can find you, everything.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me. I enjoyed this conversation.
My pleasure.
Where can people find me? On my website, andrenasawyer.com. And there you will find links to my Amazon page for my books. You'll also find my social media. I'm most active on Twitter and Instagram. And then you'll also find links to my businesses. P.E.R.K Consulting is the consulting practice I have. And then MCWEN is a faith-based organization for women of color in business. So if you fit any of those, feel free to connect.
All right. That's like I said, I appreciate you coming on, but don't leave just yet. All right. So now it's time for shout outs. Big shout out to my Real Wise fam, Poppy J, Brandy J. Love you guys. Big shout out to the boss lady, Fina. Love you, baby. Appreciate you. Big shout out to our guest, Andrena Sawyer, for coming through and sharing her love and her story and everything she's got going on. And as always, a big shout out to all the essential workers out there. God bless y'all. Be safe. You know your boy Wise does it. Peace out.
Thanks for listening. Listen on iTunes, Podbean, Spotify, and TuneIn. Find us on social media on Twitter at @wise_B_blunt, Instagram at @wise_B_blunt, and a Facebook fan page, www.facebook.com/wise76. Check back soon for new episodes. Until next time, peace out.